A Russian soldier serving on the front line in Ukraine has described the T-80BVM main battle tank as unreliable, poorly constructed, and ill-suited for battlefield conditions, according to Defense blog, citing an interview published by Vault 8. The serviceman, identified by the call sign Tim, said the upgraded T-80BVM, promoted by Moscow as a modern combat vehicle, performs poorly under operational stress. It is something that looks quite good on paper, but the quality of execution is terrible, he said, adding that critical components such as hydraulic systems and fasteners fail frequently. The T-80BVM is a modernized version of the Soviet-era T-80 platform, equipped with a gas turbine engine, thermal optics, and upgraded protection systems. It has been actively used in Russia's operations in Ukraine and is often promoted in official materials as a high-mobility, all-weather tank. According to the tanker, hydraulic leaks began the moment the vehicle rolled off the trailer, and repeated repairs failed to resolve the issue. The crew compartment, he noted, is uncomfortably tight, particularly for the commander, because of its additional thermal imaging equipment. He also challenged official claims about the tank's gas turbine engine, stating that it performs poorly in muddy terrain and consumes excessive amounts of fuel. In our black soil, it does not move at all, he said. The engine reportedly requires kerosene rather than diesel and produces a loud noise similar to a jet fighter taking off when operating from the side or rear. During combat, he described a dangerous delay in startup time compared to diesel-powered tanks. When our group was spotted and they started shelling us, the T-72 started instantly and drove away. We stood under fire waiting for the turbine to spool up, the tanker said. Tim reported that the T-80BVM is difficult to maintain in field conditions. The air intake can easily clog with debris, shutting down the engine, while fuel filters require constant draining. Despite official claims that the turbine provides advantages in cold weather, the soldier said the tank remains dependent on battery power to start, offering no practical improvement over older models. He also criticized makeshift field upgrades intended to protect against drones, such as heavy grille armor and chains mounted on turrets. These additions, he said, overstrain the transmission and turret drive systems, leading to premature wear and mechanical failures. According to Defense blog, the tanker further noted shortages of standard explosive reactive armor, saying that many of the blocks installed are improvised and fail to meet advertised protection levels. Earlier, Defense Express reported that Russian engineers attempted to improve the BMD-4M airborne vehicle with additional armor and mesh screens after heavy battlefield losses. However, analysts noted that the upgrade failed to address the vehicle's core design flaw, its light construction, leaving it vulnerable to drones, anti-tank weapons, and even machine gun fire. To address this, Russian designers introduced a protection upgrade package that includes armored screens on the front, sides, and rear of the hull, along with mesh lattice screens on the turret. While these additions provide some defense against shaped charge weapons and side strikes from drones, they leave the vehicle's upper surfaces completely exposed, precisely where FPV drones most often attack. Defense Express pointed out that the BMD-4M's biggest weakness is its very concept. It must remain light enough for airdropping and amphibious operations, while also carrying heavy weaponry. The aggressor country's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, returned to the public eye following rumors of his possible resignation and made a statement about negotiations with the United States to end the Kremlin-instigated war in Ukraine. In an interview with Russian propaganda media, Lavrov claimed that during US President Donald Trump's talks with Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin in Alaska, Washington allegedly promised Moscow that it would ensure that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski would not impede the achievement of peace. Apparently, certain difficulties have arisen in this matter, added the minister of the aggressor country. Lavrov also repeated well-known Kremlin narratives, specifically recalling that the occupiers included several regions of Ukraine in their constitution, citing the results of so-called referendums not recognized by the international community. According to the Russian minister, despite the compromise nature of the agreements with the US, Russia is not abandoning the issues that are fundamental to it. Lavrov added that he was ready to meet with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio to discuss the war in Ukraine, but demanded that the American side take into account Russia's interests. Political scientist Michael Naki believes that Lavrov fell low in Putin's eyes, which is why he was thrown overboard. A number of completely unreliable telegram channels are writing that the head of the Russian Foreign Ministry has been written off for failing to negotiate with the Trump administration. I wouldn't have paid any attention to these publications if it weren't for a series of strange events that have occurred simultaneously, which, in Putin's vertical, often signal that someone has been written off from the inner circle, the blogger reported. Naki noted, "Let's start with the fact that Lavrov was absent from the Security Council meeting held by Putin on November the 5th. At that meeting, Putin instructed the committee to consider proposals for resuming nuclear testing. Lavrov was the only permanent member of the Security Council to miss the meeting. Kommersant reports, citing sources, that the minister was absent by agreement. No parallel meeting or business could be found. Lavrov's absence from this carefully orchestrated performance is a very serious signal." Putin was not thrilled that the foreign minister spoke to Rubio in such a way that Trump cancelled the Budapest meeting and imposed serious sanctions against the Russian oil industry for the first time, the political scientist pointed out. News of Lavrov's no-show came just a couple of weeks after the collapse of a plan for an in-person summit in Budapest between Putin and US President Donald Trump. Lavrov was Russia's point man for making that happen. But after a phone call between Lavrov and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the summit was put on ice. US officials said the Russians had not shifted from their maximalist position on Ukraine. The Trump administration followed with fresh sanctions on Moscow.